Welcome along to the Football Martin Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's show. It's the build up to Christmas and the Christmas fixtures are coming very, very soon. The first one of those festive fixtures kicks off on Boxing Day. We're going to be previewing those very shortly with my two guests here on the Football Martin channel today. But before I do get my guests into today's show, because I'm not on my own today, I've managed to get two very special guests to join me to chat about all things Southampton. I want to wish every single one of you a very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you for tuning in to my channel throughout the year. Thank you for all the new subscribers that I've picked up in the last couple of weeks. And a huge thank you for your comments and your support of what I do around Southampton. So thank you all very much. It does mean the absolute world to me. Right, today's show, like I said, I had two special guests joining me. Ellie and Charlie are going to join me, a father and daughter. You'll be familiar with these two because if you watch the YouTube content that I produce, they often pop up in the shows. They speak very well, and I wanted to bring them on to the show because I think it's nice to mix the guests up, but they both speak so well and have such good knowledge of Saints. I thought there's no better pair that I'd like to bring on to today's show. So Charlie and Ellie are going to join me here on the Football Martin channel for today's pre-Christmas build-up show. Got two very special guests by popular demand actually as well. I've been asked for one of these guests on the show today. Ellie's joining me along with her dad Charlie. You will, if you're watching live on YouTube or watching on YouTube or on TikTok, you will recognize these two because they are regularly on the Football Martin channel. Guys, thank you very much for.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
No, it's good. It's good to mix up the guests. I'll get loads of guests on, and it's nice to sit down and do something over a period of time that we're not outside a football ground and we're like rushing and we're all looking to get home. And it's nice just to sit down and I want to, as a part of today's podcast, I actually want to reflect upon your journeys, both of you, at the end of the show on how you become Southampton fans and some of your fondest memories. Be interested to get both of yours actually. And how you ended up becoming a Saints fan, Ellie. I imagine that's from your dad, but we'll save that to the back end of the show. Let's reflect upon everything that's happened in the last week. The last time I saw you both was outside St Mary's. After that defeat to Tottenham Hotspur, Russell Martin was sacked. I'll start with you, Ellie.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the sacking of Russell Martin?
I think I couldn't believe how quickly it happened, to be honest. I literally just got home and we saw it all. I think it needed to happen, didn't it? If it was going to happen, that was the time. And I'm excited about the new appointment. And I think it's going to be good for us. And the Great Escape's on, I think.
Yeah, I love the positivity. I've been really positive about him this week, Charlie, as well. Russell sacked. Some of your fond memories of Russell Martin as a Southampton manager. It's kind of all been clouded the last couple of weeks, isn't it, with what happened this season and the last couple of weeks, but he did a really good job here, and there's some standout moments, wasn't there, last season?
Amazing moments, yeah. Before we even get to the playoffs, we had some incredible matches last year. We had that amazing unbeaten run, which Ellie and I went to quite a few away games during that period, and we just had, I think the Bristol City game was the end of it, wasn't it? And we went to that game, and it wasn't so much disappointing. It's just amazing that we got so many games unbeaten, and that's not something you experience too often as a Saints fan, is it? So, and of course,
25, was it 25 we went in the end? Was it 25 in all competitions?
25 league. I can't remember.
No, it's 25 across all, I think.
Yeah. And then of course, I worked out, Martin, I've been going for 36 years, I think, to watch Saints, and I honestly think the semi-final at home against West Brom, that was just one of the two or three best nights as a Saints fan that I've ever had. Certainly the drama of it and the feeling we had when we scored, the sort of release you get when you score. The goal was when Will Smallbone scored, particularly, was just incredible. So the playoff final, of course, was unmatched, really. So yeah, he does deserve a lot of credit. I think he had a very particular style of play. I think the club knew what they were getting when they signed Russell Martin. They were very, very clear, and he was really, really clear, wasn't he? How he was going to play, that he was not going to compromise. I don't think I'm actually thinking about him being sacked, a lot of people said, that he hasn't got a plan B, or he won't compromise, or he's too stubborn. To be honest, I think the club were the intransigent body here, because Russell Martin, there was no missell, there was no dishonesty, there's no doubt. He made it totally clear how he was going to play, and nothing was going to change. He didn't con us or mislead us. And in my opinion, it was the club that was intransigent, and they should have changed. I heard controversial Chris say the other day that they might have changed in the summer, because they knew that this would be tough in the Premier League after what happened to Burnley. And I say, Burnley had a much better record than Championship than we did. So if it wasn't going to work for them, then maybe it was a bit of a reach to say it was going to work for us. So I think Chris had a point there, but I personally think the club didn't make the change early enough. They should have changed after the Bournemouth game, in my opinion. But as you say, lots of fond memories. He doesn't deserve to be sort of vilified or remembered badly. He was actually one of the most honest guys in the room, really, wasn't he, about how he intended to do things.
I think as well, it sort of felt like people were saying, are we going to stick with him? If we're going to go down, have him next season. And I think that wasn't clear at any point. It sort of felt like he just kept going and going. And it's, are we going to keep him? Are we going to get rid of him? When is that point going to come? And it did feel, the general consensus felt like after that Tottenham game, that was that moment. Because before that, I kind of got the feeling that he wasn't going to go at all. But yeah, it was weird how long it was left. Because we're sort of halfway through the season now, aren't we?
It felt too long, didn't it? It felt too long. I think, like your dad said, it's like when we got to the Bournemouth game, you could we were continuing to make the same mistakes, weren't we? Games were all unraveling exactly the same. Went right back to the opening game of the season, the individual error, and it kind of just continued, didn't it? And to get to pretty much Christmas, like you say, Ellie, you just feel it's just too long. It's too long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a big ask. It was a big ask of him to come up and play this style of football in the Premier League, and it looks like, actually, I was going to say this on the podcast and get your guys' thoughts on it. Everybody was saying that Sport Republic had a style of football that they wanted to play. I'm not convinced it was Sport Republic had a style of football they wanted to play. I feel it was probably Jason Wilcox, who was the man who wanted Russell Martin. He was the man that went and got him in. He's not the football club anymore. We don't have a director of football. I think for me, Sport Republic have already proved when they appointed Nathan Jones, they weren't necessarily looking for a certain style of football. I think they just want to stay in the Premier League, really. Inevitably, that's what we all want. We need to stay in the division financially.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, Jason Wilcox, when he seemed like, him and Russell did seem ideologically aligned, didn't they? Absolutely clear. Wilcox came from Man City, where they play this same sort of style of football, so it all fitted together. But the thing that surprised me in the last few days with Juric is that he's talking a different language to Russell Martin altogether, isn't he?
Completely different, it sounds like.
Yeah. He's even said in his press conference yesterday, was it, that he said, one sentence he said was, "I won't be able to change the style of play immediately." And to me, that was quite significant. If you were just going to make tweaks, you could do that pretty quickly, over the next couple of weeks. But that sounds to me like it's quite a jump, quite a shift.
Yeah, he's gonna play such a different style of football than what we saw under Russell Martin. I've read a bit into Ivan Juric, and he seems an interesting manager, actually. The way that he wants to go about playing football, Ellie. Do you Have you seen much of what's been said about him and the way that he's going to want to play football here? And do you think that has he got the personnel to do it? That's the question I want to ask you.
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I think I've seen some stuff about him. I like the fact that he wants to, do a high press and an aggressive press, and I hope that brings some more excitement around how Saints play football. It's when we keep playing these games with not a shot on target or none of these things. It's like, how long is this going to go on for? But I think the way that it sounds like he's going to play and bring into this football club could be really, really positive. And I'm really excited about this appointment. I've seen some sort of mixed reviews about him from Saints fans sort of immediately, But I think, let's all give him a chance. Let's all get behind him and see what he can do for us.
Yeah, Charlie. When you look at what Bournemouth have done this season under a team that play high press, we got beaten by them this season. Do you think we might see something similar to what you see at Brentford and you see at Bournemouth, in the way that they don't necessarily technically have the best players, but they get their teams really fit and they get really hard to beat? Do you think we might see that at Southampton?
Yeah, I really do, because I think the fitness in particular is one of the areas where Pochettino and Koeman and even Ralph made a difference, didn't they? I think the fitness of the team can make such a big difference, and I think especially when you get to those sort of later times in the game, we know that games aren't 90 minutes; they're 100, 110 minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
You've got to be really, really fit, and you've got to have and you've got to have really fit players on the bench too. To me, it's a non-negotiable in the Premier League these days. You just can't keep up otherwise. And I do think that the team has looked less fit than it has in the past over the last, even last season.
I'd agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, they won a lot of games last year just by golfing class. I think we had a lot of really good players in the Championship level, and this year it's just not enough. It's just not been enough, and the fitness is shown as well. Been outrun by teams, and teams have sort of closed us down and forced us into mistakes.
The Leicester game and the Ipswich game were both, that's just two off the top of my head, there may be more, but they were last minute, where we've drawn and lost that game in the last minute, and if that fitness was a bit better, maybe those results wouldn't have.
We run out of gas, didn't we? We run out of gas in games.
He's talked about fitness. Well, he hasn't talked about fitness, but I've heard people talk about him in the sense of, fitness being really, really important. I imagine the team is going to have a really tough few weeks, on the fitness side. They're going to have a bit busy time, I imagine.
I think you're right. I think they're in for a really tough couple of weeks, fitness wise. Somebody, when I tweeted about the fitness levels a few weeks ago, saying that he will have to get these players fit, and there'll be double training. And I said that there's no doubt there'll be double training sessions, and there will be. Somebody said to me, you can't go burning players out. I don't think there's any danger of burning anyone out here. Do you two? Do you think that?
I think they've got loads more to give, these players, in terms of fitness. It's a very young squad. You look at players like Taylor Harwood-Bellis, for example, who's a very, very young, fit guy. I think him and a lot of the people around him, they've got loads more to give. Bednarak played in that team, which were, I think under Ralph, where they were much, much fitter. He's a bit older now, I know, but they're used to it. Some of those older players who've been around the club longer will know what this feels like, and they'll have noticed the difference over the last couple of years as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point on the fitness levels. I really do. I think you're spot on it. Ellie, for you, we're a little bit weak in the squad. He said that he's going to need a little bit of time to address what he's potentially going to need. When you look at you go to all the games, you see it like the rest of us. Do you feel like we're really short in midfield in the striker department? Because I kind of feel we're just so lightweight there in terms of what we can bring in and back up Cameron Archer, back up Flynn Downs in midfield. We don't have enough, do we?
Yeah, I think we have a big squad. We have players, but I don't think whether it's that the quality isn't there. Well, the quality isn't there, but whether I think Juric said yesterday in his press conference that he wants to see what he can get out of these players first before he, thinks about what we might need. It's hard to say. I think, we do need some more experienced players in there. As I think you mentioned, that the squad is so young. There's players in there that, a few of them haven't played, at this level before. Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Tyler Dibling, players like that. And Taylor Harwood-Bellis it's been great for us this season. I'm not saying that, but I think we need some more experience on the pitch, and I think we get that when Lallana's fit. Would you agree? I think we say that quite often. When Lallana's fit, it's a different sort of game.
Yeah, Lallana will be important to, even if he doesn't play as much. I think something like that, bit of experience on the pitch. But I think you can look at I think you can look around the squad in more general terms, Martin. I think I don't know if I'm going to regret saying this, but I wouldn't be too upset if Kyle Walker-Peters leaves. I think,
No,
I
I
feel
agree.
similar to
I agree.
him, how I felt about, Prowsey and Shea. I like them. I like them all. They've been really, really good for the club, but there's just something about them that doesn't seem to step up in the crunch moments. And during that relegation season, I remember, watching Prowsey and Kyle Walker-Peters, mixing it up down that right hand side and just passing the ball between them, and it just wasn't going anywhere. I think you've got some great players in our squad. It's not. I mean, I think I said to you earlier in the season, it feels to me like an upper bottom half sort of squad that's just playing just playing a style of football that isn't gonna work. I'd love to see
grind results out, don't you? Like a team like Southampton. Do you not think that you have to be grinding results out? You have to find a way to win games, and you have to go back to being hard to beat. And we were so easy to beat under Russell.
And I think that's when players like Kyle Walker-Peters, they've got to be stepping up. And, at times like this, they're the ones on the pitch that have got experience having to get these results and pushing right through to the end. And I know what you mean about Kyle Walker-Peters. He's been brilliant for us, and we all love him. But maybe we need someone else.
I think Charlie, you make a really good point on that. I think you make a really good point about Walker-Peters. Maybe it kind of feels like it's time now for him to.
Yeah.
He's been magnificent. What he's done for the football club over the period of time he's been here has been absolutely brilliant. But he's not signed that contract, has he? It was on the table in the summer. They all said they would never get into another situation like they did with Stuart Armstrong and Shea Adams. They're in that situation. We're in January. Do you sell him? If there's an opportunity to get something for him, do you sell him at this moment in time and then look to bring reinforcements in, Charlie?
He is such an important player. He's a big name player, and he's not the sort of player we have at the club too often. But I personally would, I'd say get what we can for him. We just sacked our manager, which we know, or I think a lot of us felt the part of the delay for that was the finances around it. So if we can sell Kyle Walker-Peters in January, I just think we've got other players in the squad that can step up. And if we're going to play death metal football, as the new manager says, then we've got players like Matty Fernandez. We've got players like Harbour Bellis. We've got Dibling, who I know has gone off the ball a little bit in the last couple of games, but even players like Adam Armstrong, who I doubt I think you say quite often isn't a number 9. Martin, I do agree with you, but he'll still have a run at players. He'll still put the effort in. He'll still be hard working, and if he's fitter, I think a lot of those players and lots of others in the squad will be able to step up and actually make a difference here and just get us towards that sort of points average that we need.
I think it's just, I know you said yes there, but I think it's so hard to say yes to the question of, do you sell Kyle Walker-Peters in January? Because he has been such an important player for us. And to me, it kind of feels like if we're going to put everything at this now and try and stay up here, we can't be losing a player like that. But I know what you mean. I mean, who is going to step up and be on that side and play that position if we don't sign anyone else and do it as well as Kyle Walker-Peters does? I struggle to.
Yuki Sugawara's got a long way to go still. I thought he looked really rusty at Fulham. He's a good player, but he's lacked the opportunity to play week in, week out. He's obviously going to be a good player. He'd be the right back probably going forward, but he's got a long way to go. I don't know if you two probably echo what I'm saying there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's made a couple of. I don't think he's made too many mistakes apart from that handball that gave away the penalty, and that wasn't, I suppose, really his fault. But I don't think he's made many mistakes that have led to goals as other players have. But I think he's not quite there, and there is a mistake, and I think he sometimes looks like he's got a big mistake in him when he plays. But I completely feel that he is going to be a great player, and I think he is.
It's his first season.
He is great now, but he's got a long way to go, but he'll be great. Yeah, in a couple of seasons' time.
I think there's also an interesting question, Martin, about the midfield more generally, which is you've got Aribo, you've got Downs, you've got Fernandez, Dibling, of course, plays in midfield. Although
it's a lightweight midfield, isn't it? It's a lightweight midfield for me.
Well,
what you think about it?
Well, I just wonder what they'll be like when they're all fit, and which of those will be the full guy in this system. Because I wonder about Downs. Downs is I really like Flynn Downs. Got great memories of that last minute goal from
Watford.
against Watford last season, just a magic moment. But he's a real Russell Martin advocate for that style of play. You know, he's come
Sideways,
out more robustly than anyone else. Yeah, he's come out more robustly and defensive, Russell Martin, on a couple of occasions, and that style of play. So I don't know whether he'll continue. Aribo, sometimes Aribo looks like he's really excited by the more dynamic sort of periods of play, but that's not sort of how we play. So I don't really know how he'll do. I've got a feeling he'll do okay if he's fitter, and we're going to play more attacking football. We're creating more space and things. Then you've got Ugachukwu, of course, as well.
Who I thought looked good. Looked good at
Fulham,
I will say.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what you thought of him at Fulham. I spoke about him yesterday on my show. I thought he was really impressive when he came on. You know, it was almost like he wanted to prove to the manager that he wanted an opportunity, and he actually gave us something that we haven't seen for a while. A bit of aggression, and he didn't give the ball away a lot, did he? He looked good when he came on.
Yeah, I thought so. I think I don't quite know how many appearances he's made so far this season. And I know there was one or two that I thought he did look really good, and there was a couple of others where I wasn't sure. But against Fulham, when he came on, I think we both said at the time that he looked like sort of a different player. Really, he looked really positive. So yeah, excited to see what he could do this season. But again, it's which ones of those do you put in and which don't?
Which of those are going to survive in the midfield? Yeah.
Charlie, you're right about the fall guy, because there'd be somebody that won't be able to play in that midfield, because for me, it's too lightweight. I love Fernandez, but it's hard to play him, Aribo and Dibling all in and around Flynn Downs for me. It's too lightweight for me, and I think we get bullied in midfielding. I think the Chelsea game obviously I think Downs didn't play in that anyway, but we've got bullied. That was probably the game we got bullied the most in central midfield. But I think it was Jurgen Klopp said last year in an article that I read or watched, I can't remember, and he spoke about games being won in midfield, having a really strong core in midfield, and that for me, that's something that Ivan Juric will have to do. Whether that, Che Charles won't be the answer for me bringing him back from Sheffield Wednesday now. I still think maybe leave him where he is. He'd be great next season. I still think we need someone to go into that midfield, and if Downs is going to still be there, is that he needs somebody almost either side of him that are really strong, like you say, heavy metal style players.
Yeah. I sort of think that I do feel Matthew Fernandez could be the engine room of the team. He's, certainly going forward. He looks exciting. You never quite know. I mean, he's had that header disallowed, didn't he? Last, in the Tottenham game, which was, I couldn't believe it was him that had sort of flung himself forward and scored that header. Yeah. But so he puts himself about, and I know you were saying he's got a red card in him. You reckon as well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think he might be the committed sort of player that Juric might like, but we'll just see. I've really been thinking about it. I can't think how that midfield will shape up under Juric. It'll be really interesting to see over the next 2 or 3 games.
Because I think recently that midfield, I mean, Matty Fernandez has been there in their most games, and so has Flynn Downs, but Aribo's sometimes been there, and Dibling's played most games. But I think it's hard for me to say which one of those you wouldn't play.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think if I had to pick and say one right now, I would probably say Aribo as it stands.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah,
Ellie, I echo that. I'm not sure Joe Aribo will have the legs in this side to play how this manager wants to play. I don't think he's athletic enough, personally. I might be wrong in saying that, but I don't think I think he's quite he chugs over. He can be a bit casual sometimes, likes the ball at his feet. I don't know if we ever played him in the position that he played in for Rangers and done really well. Like he played more in the sort of false 9 role for them and sort of in behind the striker. We've never really played him in that role. I want to talk about a man that has played in that role with you, Ellie and Charlie. I'll come to you first, Ellie. Just your thoughts on Tyler Dibling. He's come under a little bit of criticism the last couple of weeks. He's played a lot of football for an 18-year-old lad. His agents come out and said that he's not happy with the contract that's potentially been put on the table for him. Russell Martin came out and said that, which I think probably pissed him and his agent off a fair bit, I would have thought, because it wasn't great that it came out. Do you think it's going to be difficult to keep hold of him in this January window? Do you think he'd go? Or do you think we'd keep him?
I think we'll keep him. At least, I would love to, have him this season. We all know he's going to be a great player. He's got a lot of work to do. I think sometimes he's too easily pushed off the ball and things like that. But that will come. He's an 18-year-old lad, so I think he needs the experience. I'd love to keep him this season and then see him score a few more goals next season, and then after that, see what happens. But I don't think we can lose him in January. I
think we've got to do everything we can to keep him, surely, haven't we, Charlie? We've got to do everything we can to keep hold of the boy.
I think we keep him. He's got a long enough contract as it is, with I think till 27 or 26 or 27. But so I don't think we need to lose him in January. I think we get those issues sorted out. I mean, I think he showed his age a little bit in the last 2 or 3 games. He's had so much adulation and coverage, and lots of game time too. And those levels have just gone down a bit. And I think the contract talk, Russell Martin saying that, probably shouldn't have just talked about it. But he's really, really young, and I think we've got to be really forgiving of this situation. I think Russell Martin said a few weeks ago he needs to get more assists and more goals. And I think when he starts banging them in, it's just going to be so exciting, And
I also think when you think about where he could be in 3 years' time, if he's playing like he is now at 18, in 3 years' time he'll only be 21, and he's got another three seasons to get experience. So, I think he'll go eventually, won't he? But
Plus, let's not forget he's left once already. I didn't have a great experience at an elite club. I think he'll be very careful about leaving, and the agents, doing his job, which is to get the best deal for his client. I'm sure that's probably more or less everything it is.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We need to come on and talk about the weekends. Well, the weekend's game is Boxing Day game. The Boxing Day game. We've got a packed festive fixture as always. Loads of games up and coming. West Ham on Boxing Day. A side that only sit 8 points from the bottom 3, which is not huge. They've not had the greatest start under their new manager. Do you see this as a real opportunity, Ellie, for Ivan Juric to get his first win? Do you think it's in reach this Boxing Day?
Absolutely. I think they're a good team to play. I know they've picked up a couple of points recently, but they did have a bad run, didn't they? And I think if Juric he's got a few days now with the players since Sunday, hasn't he, to implement some things. And definitely I think this could kickstart everything. So I think we can win it.
Yeah. I mean, they've not had a great season.
I do.
Yeah, they've not had a fantastic. They certainly performed below expectations, haven't they? Certainly with the manager they've got. They've only had 1 win in the last 5 games. They've had, I'd say, in the context of this season, pretty decent draws against Bournemouth and Brighton, and they've beaten Wolves as well. So I don't think it's a straightforward game at all.
But they're not doing as well as you'd probably expect. Predict at the beginning of the season. So, I think it's an opportunity. I think it's a good game to have, as I know, with his first game in the dugout. And I'm pleased it's a team like West Ham and not City or something like that for his first game. Excited for
Boxing Day.
Yeah, I was looking at the statistics on it actually, and they don't travel great actually. They've got a bit of work to do on the road, West Ham. The Hammers have only just won once in their last 7 league matches, drawn 3, lost 3. Obviously, our home form isn't great, as we know. Our away form isn't great. Obviously, as it stands, we haven't had a win at home in our last 5 league games, drawn 2 and lost 3. Home form between now and the end of the year, end of the season, is going to be huge, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I think earlier in the season, I was sort of reflecting that we've had a lot of what you would call winnable games already at home, haven't we? We've played Leicester and Ipswich at home already. These are games survival would be, to survive, they'd be critical games to win, and we haven't won them. And that just makes the West Ham game an even bigger game. I don't think it means doom and gloom if we don't win, because he's new in the club. We're playing a team that is fighting for its life and fighting for its manager as well. And it might take a few weeks for things to settle down, but we definitely need a result quickly, and we need a sustained improvement pretty quickly, don't we? I was worked out that I think we've got 63 points to play for, and we need 30 points to get to 36, which is the sort of average, which is 1.4 points a game. So that's a big change to the points average we've got already. Although another interesting stat you might find interesting is that Ivan Juric's last 2 seasons at Torino, he got 1.39 points per game both those seasons. So hopefully, I wonder how much that played. We know Sports Republic like their stats and their data, as we found out when they appointed Nathan Jones. So maybe that came into it a little bit. He has got a record of getting the sort of points we need to get. Stat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's doable. It's not out of the question. I just think you imagine if he can get a win on Boxing Day, it will give everybody, like every fan, so much belief going into the Palace game at the weekend. And Palace are having a really tough time. You just know this Christmas could be so. If results went right, and it's a big if because we don't look like scoring goals, but if we can walk out of St Mary's with something on Boxing Day, I think it will change the whole atmosphere. I already said yesterday, I felt the atmosphere around Craven Cottage was quite different on the weekend. It felt like there was a bit of a relief in the air. And I thought that fans were, though it's Christmas, everyone's quite jolly. People felt quite optimistic again. And in the position we're in, when you look at the league table, we should have a look at the league table. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the league table because I'm going to pop it up on the screen. But if you look at the league table, it isn't great at all. And yeah, it's been a horrific start. We've got to find another 6 points just to get to Ipswich. But look, a couple of wins over this festive period, and Charlie, you never know what might happen.
You don't, and I don't think I can remember us being in this dire situation, but we've certainly been in very dire situations before, and clubs have come back from significant deficits in the past. I like what Juric said at his press conference, which we will, if we work hard, we can be the first team to do something that no one's ever done before, and that will just change. I think the way he's talking will just change the mood on its own, and if you can get a win to back it up on Saturday, then you go into the sort of Palace and Brentford games, and certainly the Brentford home game on the 4th with a totally different feeling about the place, and we know the crowd. It's been really good actually at St Mary's this season, despite what's been going on. I think it's been very patient and very supportive, but we know the crowd will make a difference. So
and that's what you want as a football fan, and I think especially as a Saints fan, you have to have that belief. You've got to be optimistic, and I just think no one's ever stayed up from our position before, but someone's going to do it eventually. Hopefully, why is it not going to be us?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And when you look at this table, like I was looking at it a minute ago as we were talking, and you look, but really and truly, Palace, Leicester, Wolves, Ipswich, and ourselves. I think it's obviously going to be 3 from the 5 of us. I really do. Someone else could get sucked in it, but Palace have been dreadful. I think Leicester, their new manager bounce didn't last particularly long, did it? And I'm still don't think he's got masses of managerial experience, Ruud van Nistelrooy. I don't see Leicester staying up, even though they sit a place outside that relegation zone. I don't see him staying up. I really don't. And there will be an opportunity for us, Ipswich and Wolves, to get out of it. I don't. Is there any doubt about it?
No, I completely agree. There's lots to play for, and our situation does look dire, but I just think we just got to have the attitude that it looks dire, but we're all in for it. The crowd, the players, the manager, we're just all up for it, and we'll see where we are in May. Wouldn't it be great?
The teams around us are interesting fixtures as well. I should have mentioned on it because this weekend Arsenal play Ipswich, which is a mega tough game for Ipswich. Liverpool take on Leicester, so Leicester go to Liverpool. They've got another really hard game, and then Palace have to go and play Bournemouth. Now, obviously, we're at home against where these are all the Boxing Day, day after Boxing Day fixtures.
Yeah,
you look at those and you just think, hold it, get a win this weekend, and everything can feel so different.
Yeah, suddenly it looks completely different, doesn't it? If that says Southampton 9 points, and that's all still the same. Suddenly, everyone's.
Well, the psychology of the other teams changes as well. Yeah, the psychology of Leicester and Palace changed a little bit because Southampton won the. I mean, Wolves won, didn't they, with their first game with their new manager, and I'm sure they're feeling the same, that they've got a bit of, it's got to be sustained, but just to get the win, one game at a time, to get the win just would feel fantastic. As I'm sure Wolves fans feel fantastic after their victory the other day. We can really put the wind up some of those other teams, I think, if we get a result on Boxing Day.
Put some pressure on them. That's all I keep saying to people I chat to. We can put some pressure on those teams around us. You just never know. We just want to see some fight and some endeavour. That's all I want to see now. It's just a team fighting for their manager, fighting for their fans, fighting for the club, and I think we'll all get behind the players if they can give that. Yeah. We're coming to a back end of our show, our podcast today, and I want to take a little trip down memory lane with both of you actually, and talk about your first memories of supporting Southampton. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to get your thoughts in the comments box below. Give me your first memory and your first Southampton game you went to. Charlie, do you remember your first memory of Southampton? How did your affinity start with Southampton?
Completely by mistake, to be honest. I think I was 13 or 14, and a mate of mine used to go to watch Saints with another friend of his who'd broken his leg, and he wanted someone to go with, and he asked if I'd go with him. I wasn't too interested, but I did go along. And it was a 1-1 draw with Everton in 1989, February 1989. And I just sort of, we scored, it was 1-1, so we only scored one goal, but that sort of intensity of when the goal went in sort of really captured me, I think. And I went to a couple more games while his mate's leg got better. And I remember particularly the last game of that season was against Man United, and I think we won. We beat Man United in the last home game, and by then I just wanted the next season to come along, and I was already hooked. It was definitely a great experience. I remember in that Everton game, that first one I went to, I've got this enduring image of Neville Southall in goal for Everton, stood absolutely still as Kevin Moore. I think had a laser sort of shot past him, before he'd even realised what was going on. It was, it really made an impression on me. And I've got that book. Have you got the book in that number with all the records of all the? I looked it up in there, and that's how I know it was in February 1989. So yes, almost 36 years now I've been going.
That was obviously at the Dow. Whereabouts in the Dow did you sit or stand? Whereabouts were you?
We used to stand on the Milton Road terrace, right at the back underneath the upper tier, and we very rarely stayed there if there was a goal. We ended up quite a bit further forward. Those were in the days when you were stood on those terracing that was eventually banned, but it was a great experience, especially at that age, just to be bundling about and jumping up and down, and it's a great way to sort of let some steam off, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, one of my first games was against Everton actually as well, randomly. I think it was maybe a little bit before that. We lost. I think we lost 3-1. I think it was to Everton or Man City. But they were I need to get the book and double check it. But I remember it was pretty much around the same time as you. So we went to watch the first Southampton games around the same time. I was born in 82. And my dad took me as a young boy. And then I didn't really spend loads of time watching until sort of like the Alan Ball era. That was probably the bulk of my football was watching Southampton under AlanAll, and that was a brilliant time. We saw some.
That was a brilliant time. Yeah,
we saw some some great escapes there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say
unbelievable stories.
Yeah, the West Ham 3-3 draw on the last day of that season with Alan Ball came in. We went away to West Ham, and Matt Lasser scored an unbelievable free kick and a penalty, I think. And it was just a great day. We stayed up with a 3-3 draw on the final day of the season, and stood in the crowd right behind the goal there at Upton Park. Was just a brilliant experience.
Yeah. And what about you, Ellie? You obviously you've got a father who's a Saints fan, so it's always going to be harder to support anyone else. What was your first memory of going to a Saints game? I'm guessing your dad took you along.
Yeah, he did. So I actually remember my first ever game, and I've just had a look. So it was in January of 2010. So that means that in this January it will be 15 years since I've been watching Saints. So that would have made me about 7 or 8. And it was against Stockport actually. And I think it was the season before we got promoted from League One, and I actually couldn't tell you the score. I can't remember, but I do know that Saints lost, and Kasper Schmeichel was in goal actually for Stockport. And I remember reading the programme, and it said in there, one to watch, Kasper Schmeichel. And then 8 years later, Premier League champion.
So he's a Premier League champion and one of the best goalkeepers that the Premier League's probably ever seen. You know, he was a magnificent goalkeeper. It's a good memory. It's a really good memory. And did you just become hooked, becoming a Southampton fan? Did you just get hooked on it?
And then from there
that was the League One
every single week.
I think that was the League One -10 season. So we missed out on promotion or playoffs, but yeah, you wanted to come every week after that, didn't you?
And then I think my first sort of 8 years as a Saints fan, I'd seen 2 promotions. 8th, 7th, 6th finish in the Premier League, and I'm thinking this is amazing. And then the relegation a couple of years ago was the first real bad experience as a Saints fan. But yeah, that was mine.
It's relegation's a horrible experience, Charlie. We've experienced it a few times now, haven't we? That first one was really, really painful, wasn't it? I remember being in tears that day in the Northern Stand when we lost to Man United, and we were relegated under Harry Redknapp. I can't remember the year. What year was that? Was it
2005, I think. 2004, 5, I think. Yeah.
It was horrible, wasn't it? Horrible.
Well, especially as in that game we went 1-0 up and we had a bit of hope for a few minutes, didn't we? And that was a horrible day. Yeah, I agree. I wasn't quite in tears, but I was. You know, it was a long, hard day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you look back on your favourite Southampton players that you've watched as a fan, Charlie, obviously one's going to stand out. I guess you're gonna put out the same man as me, but looking back, other than say Matt, who are your standout players for you?
Well, I really like the players I remember playing alongside Matt were Ronnie Eklund. Do you remember Ronnie Eklund?
Yeah, that's a good shout, Ronnie Eklund.
They were brilliant together, and I don't think he played many games for us, but when those two played together, and you hear Matt talk about it a bit now, that they just had this sort of almost psychic link between them, and it just made an exciting time even more exciting. I really, you interviewed Marian Pahars the other day, which was really, really good, and he was great, of course, and
he was amazing, wasn't he?
Yeah, I missed a game the day Ellie was born. She was born at 6 o'clock on a Saturday during the season, annoyingly. He scored that day. Dean Richards and Richard Hall, just to add in some sort of central defenders as well.
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved that period whilst Koeman was the manager. And we had some really great times then, didn't we? There were some really great matches and some great players playing for us. And Pella, for example, people like that, Tadic, Mane. Those are some great times.
That team was unbelievable. And Ellie, you kind of like get into watching Southampton, watching like you say, a side that were finishing in European places that had like a world class manager at the time. He was a magnificent manager, and we had some unbelievable players during that period of time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Some incredible. Looking back now, Virgil van Dijk, another one. I think my favourite players from when I started watching Saints were Ricky Lambert, obviously. It was always my favourite. And Lallana was playing for Saints at the time, Jose Fonte.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that era, the sort of Ronald Koeman era, there was, some great games, some great goals. That overhead kick from Pella against QPR, the 8-0. Yeah, that was a great time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had some unbelievable moments, didn't we? Unbelievable. Hopefully, we can keep ourselves in the Premier League and we can build on it and have some of those moments again. Football goes in circles, doesn't it, Charlie? There's one thing that we could probably vouch for is like this horrible moment we're having at the moment. It will come good again. You see Brighton doing well, you see Bournemouth doing well, but it will go in circles, and it always does.
It does, yeah, it does. And Brighton are the to the 2020s what Saints were in the 2010s. I mean, they're the sort of fashionable club in terms of the one who's doing really well. Everyone talks about how well managed they are and how they bring in the best players and sell them on. That's exactly what we were doing 10 years ago. And we were doing it very successfully. And the Price of Football podcast, Kieran Maguire on that podcast is a
Yeah.
Brighton fan, and he talks about, you know, one day Brighton will be back in the Championship. You know, so
Yeah.
it is cyclical. You're never there forever. Look at Liverpool in the 80s. Took them another 20 years to win the title again. Man United the same. You know, took 25 years to win it, and then had a run, and now haven't won it again for another 10 years, so or more.
Yeah.
So, and it's even more cyclical, and you feel it even more when you're a club that is sort of less fashionable, I suppose, like Saints. So we've been down to League One. Even look at Man City; they were down in League One 15, 20 years ago, weren't they? So
look at them now.
Yeah, well, look at now. Yeah, 10 or so games have only haven't won since they played us, have they? In fact, haven't we got a better record since then than?
Yeah. So I saw this stat yesterday, and it was the Premier League table if it had started in November.
Yeah.
So as of the 1st November, Saints have all 5
points.
5 points. I think that was the win against Everton, the draw against Brighton, and then Sunday. And so we were 19th, and Man City were underneath us at 20th with only 4 points. So that's
amazing. It's amazing what's happened there. It's when you look at it, it's really strange, isn't it? Really strange.
Yeah, exactly.
They had such a great start to the season. Erling Haaland had got all those hat tricks at once, and something's obviously just changed. But that's it, isn't it? It comes and goes.
It is very cyclical, yeah. And I think, you know, there'll be a time when Southampton has a great run again, and you know it might be another 20 years, but you know, hopefully focusing on this season. Hopefully, like you say, we'll just be able to do something really, really, really special.
A massive shout out. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Charlie, for joining me today. It's been an absolute blast over the last 45 minutes or so. Some brilliant memories to finish off with, our memories of growing up watching Southampton. But it was brilliant to get 2 fresh guests on the show, and they will be back without any doubt. Without any doubt. I think they spoke really well. Get involved in the comments box below as well. Give me your thoughts on the build-up to the Boxing Day game. Can the greatest escape ever be on in Premier League history? And can Southampton beat West Ham United on Boxing Day? I will be back on Boxing Day. I will be back on Boxing Day with a matchday vlog. I will be on TikTok with you can come and do your pre-score predictions if you want to. Give me your score predictions ahead of the game. Video goes out first thing on Boxing Day morning, and then there'll be all the post-match reaction, all the instant reaction, all the fan cam as well. I will be all over it this Boxing Day down at St Mary's for Southampton's clash against West Ham United. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a wonderful Christmas. I'll see you again in a couple of days.